Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Kenya Williams on the line, and she's a managing partner over at Uncomn Projects. Kenya, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
So I'm excited to get into what you're doing over at Uncomn Projects, but before we do that, let's get into your background a little bit more. Tell us a little bit more about how you got started in your career and in business.
Sure. So I've been in real estate for about 15 years now, and I started my career actually on the banking side. So I went to USC, so fight on to all the listeners out there, and came out of the real estate finance program and went straight into lending. So I worked for Wells Fargo for a number of years, then PNC Bank for a number of years, and JP Morgan as well. And in that time, I was a commercial real estate lender on the origination side, which roughly means that I made loans for big developers and institutional owners to build large commercial real estate projects. So think deals that are 50 to 500 million were the kind of big kind of institutional sized deals I was doing. And I got, the privilege of having been involved in some great projects in Los Angeles and San Francisco and Chicago, all over the country over the years that I was in that space. But then more recently, I decided that although I really enjoyed the banking world, the industry had shifted pretty dramatically after the last downturn and regulation that changed kind of how the business really worked. And I decided I wanted to try something a bit different, a bit more entrepreneurial. And so I've made this change to joining Uncomn Projects.
That's awesome. And I want to get further into Uncomn Projects. One thing, though, is that we have some younger listeners that are maybe just getting started in business or just graduating college, and they're thinking about, some of these career choices they're going to have going forward. And now you had a pretty big pivot where you started going more entrepreneurial from your previous role. What kind of advice would you give to some of those younger listeners right now about some of these pivots and challenges that they're going to have in the future?
I would say don't be too fixated on your first job. It will change. It's no longer the case you stay in your first job for the rest of your career. And with real estate especially, it's a pretty vast industry, but it's really hard to know how big it is when you're coming out of college. There's a lot more nuance to it. And once you're in it for a few years, you kind of see what other career opportunities and career paths actually exist. And then you also get to see what your skill sets are and where you may be more interested. And so I say get a job, get into the industry, but don't be too focused on making the right choice the first time. Just make sure it's a company you would enjoy working for, that'll train you and give you some real skill sets, and then just go to work. And you will, your career will evolve over time, and what you do will also evolve as well.
Man, I love that. It's great advice. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. You're not going to get it right the first time. I love it.
Yes, exactly. It's really hard to do that. You don't know enough.
I said when I graduated college, podcasting didn't even exist. How could I say I wanted to be a podcaster when I grew up? Get out of here. You couldn't do it.
Exactly. You got to keep your mind open and let the things that'll come along to you, but don't be too fixated on it. And then I also say to everyone who's young, and it's a really true thing in real estate too, stay curious about what you're doing. When you come out of college into real estate, you're not expected to know everything about the real estate industry. It's just too big and too kind of opaque for you to know that. So always ask questions. Don't be afraid not to know stuff. There's no expectation that you would know it. You're too young. But the faster you can pick up on things, the faster you can admit you don't know and ask questions, I think the faster you will learn, and then you move faster throughout your career.
That's awesome. Let's switch it up a bit, Kenya. I want to get into what you're doing over at Uncomn Projects. So first, tell us a little bit more about the company, please.
Yeah, so the company was founded in 2017 by my partner, Roger Sanchez, and he comes from fashion marketing background, but his family's in real estate. And so he kind of saw an opportunity that marketing and branding isn't really used in real estate in the same way it's used in kind of every other consumer product space, and that, developers often just kind of name their buildings after the street address, or they may do a logo or something like that. But that if you really applied the kind of comprehensive branding and marketing strategies that are used in consumer brands to real estate, that you could really drive connectivity to your tenants. You could drive leasing activity. You could charge higher rents. And then you could really increase engagement and retention. And these days, people just want a lot more. They have higher expectations out of where they live and where they work and where they spend their time. And so real estate usually builds pretty buildings. That's kind of where they stop. But marketing and branding could be used to really kind of bring a building to life and really create a destination rather than just a space. So the company we started a couple of years ago with that ethos and had really great success. We're based in Culver City. And we do projects across the country. We're really big in the multifamily space. We do some office and retail as well. And it's a really interesting area of real estate that really hasn't been tapped into in a long time, and I think has the ability to really help transform real estate projects and help buildings stand out amongst the competitors.
So correct me if I'm wrong, so your primary clientele would be, of course, owners of obviously real estate, so multifamily housing, different things there, and then developers. Is that kind of your two major client sources? Yeah,
so they're owners and they're developers, builders, yeah.
That's awesome. And so what are the size and types of projects you like working on? Because there's a lot of people listening right now that are either investors or, there's developers. We have a big real estate niche on the podcast. And I personally haven't heard of somebody going out specifically for branding within real estate in a long time, like you said. What are the type of projects you like working on?
So we are a growing company, so we're really flexible and we scale pretty well for our clients. So I would say the smallest project we currently have that we're working on is about 40 units, and the largest project is about 600 units in the multifamily space. And we also have kind of a small retail center we're working on, and we have a big kind of outdoor lifestyle center that we're working on in the Colorado and Denver area. So I think that our products scale easily, and we adjust our pricing and our services depending on the size of the project you have, because the budgets move around depending on the size of your project. So we're flexible in that sense, and you're right, most firms that do marketing and branding right now don't specialize in real estate. They, in fact, probably specialize in products more than real estate at all, and we really understand real estate. We understand construction delivery timelines. We understand your leasing hurdles. We understand your refinance deadlines you have to deal with, and, we understand occupancy rates and rental rates and concessions and all those things that kind of play in to getting your project leased up. And so I think that we really are able to customize and tailor our marketing campaigns and our marketing work to make sure you hit and outperform your performance hurdles in your project. And it really means that your marketing dollars have a real ROI when it comes to your project.
So I don't want to oversimplify it, obviously, because we're not going to have the time in the podcast to go in depth into your process. But just to give it a flavor of just some low-hanging fruit that you typically see, or just something that just sticks out to you immediately. And again, it's going to change from project to project, but just to give us a little bit more meat on what are some opportunity areas in their branding side of real estate, other than just the normal, right? We have to get it leased up, we have to hire salespeople, we have our leasing agents, and really get that occupancy up. Other than that, where do you see some of those opportunity areas on the branding side?
So I think that, the customer's website for a project is really an underutilized tool in the space a lot. Tenants for office or for if you're shopping in a retail center, or especially for multifamily, they're going to see your building digitally before they see it physically, right? Especially if you're a construction project. So your website is the introduction to your building, and it should communicate how you want the person to feel about the space, how they should expect to live, and what kind of expectation it should have when it's actually done. And so oftentimes I think developers tend to want to use a templated website because it's affordable and cost effective. But think about, a really well-done website is a fraction of the cost of what it costs to even finish out, an amenity space in a building. But it really does introduce your building in a really meaningful way to your potential clients. They can get them excited, or it can turn them off. And so I think the website, when it's properly branded and there's photography and there's renderings and there's a real, point of view that then is communicated into the building itself, it really can attract tenants and lead them to lease the building up faster than typical.
Man, that's a great one, and that I think directly corresponds even to prices, per unit prices. If you're on a website
Absolutely.
and it works well and everything else works well, that's the first thing I look at. It's been a while since I've moved around, but I know I have quite a few friends that have, and when we're on a website and you're thinking about even just small changes, it's like if the website works well, you assume that the amenities and everything else is going to work well, and that management has their stuff in order. If it doesn't work well, you're like, this thing's slow. Is anybody ever going to call me back if they got a slow website? like what else is slow? Is maintenance? Are they going to be slow to fix a pipe if it breaks? I don't know. Whatever. I mean, like that is the true impression, even though. In my mind, it's kind of, I mean, I've owned property. It's kind of nonsensical from that end, but it is true. It's true. Like if you're on the other end as a consumer, it's 100% true. Like that is going to be what people judge you on, whether or not the property is it may be much better than a site, but why? If it's such low hanging fruit, just get it right. That's a great example, Kenya. So if somebody is listening to this and they want more information or to connect with you to learn more about Uncommon Projects, what's the best route for them to do that?
We have a great website, and it's www.uncom as in Mary, N as in Nancy, -projects.com. Or you can email me at kenya@uncommon-projects.com. But it's spelled Uncomn for all your listeners.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Well, hey, Kenya, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background and all the great work you're doing over at Uncommon Projects. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store, do all those great things we do to support our podcasters. I really do appreciate it. And Kenya, thanks again for coming on the show.